What's up everybody, this is Ven, welcoming you to another MOC Spotlight where we take apart what you build. For today's episode, we'll be going over Anubisath, created and posted to our message boards by Alieraah. Ha! Pronounced it correctly this time. Anyway, before we get started, let me remind you of my method of reviewing, which involves a point system that is based on 3 fundamental attributes: the overall appearance of the MOC, the build of the MOC itself, and the concept and ideas behind the MOC's creation. Each quality will mount up to 5 points, leading up to a final score that will be determined at the end of the episode. And please remember that this is all based on my opinion. So let's get this started. Okay, I gotta say, immediately, I think this looks really awesome. I mean, first of all, this is a pretty unique design for a humanoid MOC. But see, I think this is cool, because overall, it already looks like it has a lot of character. You got this really distinctive head design, the cape all over the butt, this unique staff that I feel is designed in a way that's very representative of the character, and I'll explain that a little more later on. And then there's the shaping of the legs. It has that weird cockback leg thing. And I'm also really digging this color scheme. I mean, I know most of it's black, but what I'm really on about is the gold and the dark azure. I think these two colors work really well together. Though I did notice that there are 2 different shades of gold used here. We got the pearl gold in the chest, which sticks out a good bit, and then the gold in the rest of the body is actually dark gold. Now, I'm not sure about the kraken, the mask up here. I don't know if it's pearl gold or dark gold. It looks more pearl gold, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt because I think that pearl gold would be a lot more effective here than dark gold. Dark gold's kind of ugly, really. And while this might sound a little bit nitpicky, I do kind of wish that this MOC had a bit more color on it. Probably more the pearl gold, honestly, in some areas. Because I think the black is a little bit too overwhelming. Now, coloration aside, I'd say the MOC looks pretty clean. I mean, this torso here looks pretty neat, and it's got some interesting decorations going on, too. However, I do take issue with the shoulder area, and it's because, well, if you look here at this gold shoulder armor, it kind of makes it look like the shoulders are a lot lower on the torso than they probably should be. So not only does it make it look awkward, but it's also a little redundant, considering that he already has this black shoulder armor over the gold shoulder armor, and it's just kind of like, why you do this? It's got a shoulder underneath a shoulder. It looks really weird. And it also looks as though the arms are a bit too short for the proportions of the rest of the body. I mean, I'm not sure if it's because of the problem with the shoulders that make it look this way, but I mean, either way, it's a thing. And what also looks a little bit awkward are these legs. The thing I take issue with is that I feel like the middle portion of the legs need to be a bit shorter, or perhaps the entirety of the lower leg should be shorter, everything underneath the thighs. So while the proportions might all be there, at least I could say that this MOC is aesthetically consistent. Now, taking a look at the MOC's build, I can already tell that things are looking pretty good here. The MOC is big and complex all throughout, and despite that, the torso build looks really solid. The limbs look sturdy, and overall the MOC looks structurally stable and well balanced. He's also got a standard range of posability, including articulated fingers, which can literally grab onto the staff pretty effectively. As for how effective it is exactly, I'm not all too sure, because much like the last MOC I reviewed, it looks like the staff really relies on how well the MOC is gripping it, because there's nothing that's actually connecting it to the MOC to prevent it from falling off, So there's that. And looking a bit closer at the hands, they also seem a bit fragile. So really, I'd say this is all highly suspect, but hey, looks good in the pictures, don't it? And I also noticed that this MOC makes some creative usage over smaller parts for aesthetical purposes, and you can see a pretty great example here if you look closer on the upper torso. You can see stuff like this chain and these little spikes and whatnot. And then of course there's the head, which is a purely custom build. And not only does it look cool, but custom head builds always impress me for some reason. So I personally felt like it was worth noting. Whatever. And it's also worth noting that unfortunately this MOC doesn't have a function. And to be fair, it doesn't really look like it needs a function. It's a pretty neat figure as it is, and it has that feature of holding the staff and not holding it and whatever. So while it is worth noting, I don't think that this MOC needs it to be a better creation. And from here on out, I'm gonna make that acknowledgement a little bit more often. But yeah, overall, looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. So now let's talk about the concept. As it might have been a bit obvious for some of you, the main goal behind this creation was to make something of a sort of ancient Egyptian theme, and ultimately the builder decided to base his MOC on a well-known Egyptian icon, the god named Anubis, who is primarily recognized for having the likeness of a jackal, and for also being the god of the dead. So like, super edgy, am I right? So like, right off the bat, I think I could say that this MOC looks pretty much like a bionicle version of Anubis. You know, he's got that jackal-shaped head. He's got all the colors that Anubis is primarily associated with, like, of course, black and gold. And in some imagery, you might actually find him with a good bit of blue. That looks a little bit like this dark azure that the builder used. And then he's also got the staff that sometimes you might see Anubis with. And honestly, I feel like the staff alone is pretty well representative of what the theme behind this MOC is. And you know, while I might not know a lot about ancient Egypt and whatnot, I watched a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I've seen a few Egyptian movies, and you know, I could, or at least I think I can deduct that this symbol is pretty relevant to ancient Egyptian iconography. Okay, I know that sounded pretty ignorant, so feel free to school me, I don't care. But all in all, I'd say it's fairly easy to guess what this MOC is supposed to be. And, you know, if anything, you could probably get that whole god idea just based on its size and the gold. You know, he's got a lot of value or something, I don't know. But with that said, I'd say that the builder's goals are pretty well achieved, though I do think it could use a bit of improvement in how it appears here and there. So I don't know if I could say it's a really perfect job, but it's definitely a really good job. And I definitely like the decision of using this gold mask up here to make up the shape of the head, kind of really selling that whole jackal look. And yeah, no, clever girl. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up all my thoughts on this MOC. So let's go ahead and start talking about some scoring now, shall we? So in terms of appearance, this MOC receives a 4 out of 5. I think this MOC looks really cool. You know, I'm actually digging the whole design. I find that it's got a lot of character and that it's aesthetically consistent, but I do take issue with its proportions, and I do feel like these could have been done a lot better for the sake of making the MOC look a whole lot better too. But the highlights for me were the head design and the staff design. These are great. In terms of the build, this MOC receives a 4.5 out of 5. I couldn't really find much fault with the build. I think overall it's structurally sound, and that's pretty impressive for such a customized build. But I do think there's a bit of a setback with the construction of the hands and the legs. Well, I only bring up the legs now because it's like they kind of make it look awkward. So maybe if they were built differently, it wouldn't be that way. And then there's also the fact that it lacks a function, but I don't think that really hurts the MOC all too much. I don't think it really needs it, but hey, I guess I gotta be fair. And then in terms of the concept, I give this MOC a 4.5 out of 5. The goal was to make some sort of Egyptian-looking MOC and to make it based off of Anubis, and you know, I gotta say, firsthand, this immediately did remind me of Anubis. That's the first thing I thought. I'm not even joking. I swear, I'm not lying to you. It really reminded me of Anubis. Just believe me. But yeah, no, I think this MOC does that job pretty well. And yeah, some things could be improved to kind of get that perfect score. Some things could be perfected a little bit, but just a little bit, because overall, I think this MOC is really interesting and cool to look at. So with all that said, we wrap it all together in a nice final score of 13 out of 15. Great job, Alieraah. You presented a pretty great MOC, and while a few things could be a bit better, that definitely doesn't take too much away from the creative prowess we've got here. So again, great job. Congrats for making it onto the MOC Spotlight a second time. I swear that was not intentional. I only just realized it right before recording this. But I guess that just goes to show, as long as you got a good bit of creativity, you deserve to get recognized for it. So to all of you viewers watching this video, please consider the idea of posting your own LEGO creations to the message boards at board.ttvpodcast.com under the LEGO Creations category, and you will instantly earn yourself a high possibility of being featured on the MOC Spotlight in the future. And while Alieraah may have been on the MOC Spotlight twice, this is actually the first time I found one of her MOCs on the message boards. And with that in mind, I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.